It was a forgettable trade period for North Melbourne. No big names or stars were even linked with the club, and no immediate trades were made to try and get into the first round of this year's national draft after the club traded out their future first round pick last season to select Matt Whitlock. With no reinforcements coming in, it means North Melbourne will go around again with the squad they have. That squad helped the Kangas finish 16th with 5 wins. Internal improvement will be what the club will be banking on to try and finally challenge for top 8, but will that even be enough in a competition where many of the teams higher up on the ladder got better? One thing for certain is that there will be change with the club's leadership. The Jai Simpkin saga was in the background of the Zach Merritt trade fallout and even that of former St Kilda captain Jack Steele. Just before the official start of the trade period, it was leaked by the Herald Sun that the North Melbourne captain was open to moving away from the club. It wasn't really an official request or desperation like we saw with Merritt, and the main issue was the role Simpkin was being played in. He was moved out of the middle for most of 2025 and featured more as a high half forward with some stints on the wing. The problem was, no one really wanted him, as brutal as that sounds. Simpkin is a good player, but his supposed contract of around $900,000 per season, set to run out in 2029, made it difficult for any club to try and fit him in. The biggest interest was from Collingwood, but the best offer they put forward was a future second round pick. It was far off the 2 first rounders that North had labelled as his draft capital value. North list manager Brady Rawling said, "We put a really high price on Jai. He's won 2 best and fairest, he's 27 and he's captain. We rate him really highly." Soon after the trade period finished up and it was clear Simpkin would be returning to Arden Street, he put out a social media post detailing his struggles of late and the likelihood he would step back as the club's captain. He said, "Over the past 24 months, footy has taken a toll on my mental health and in particular the last 12 months, especially with losing 2 very important loved ones in my life this year." He then described his lack of enjoyment of playing AFL, but did reaffirm his love for the club and his teammates. But he did hint that his role on field was an issue, saying, "Never was it about my position and where I was playing, although we have had a lot of honest chats surrounding where I'm best suited to help this club." He then finished off by saying, "Whilst my leadership position may take a step back, I'm committed to continuing to give my all and help in every possible way to bring success, as ultimately that's all I'm after." It now leaves the club looking for a new captain, and there are some different options to go with. It seems as if there are 3 key leaders who could get the role. Harry Sheezel might be the fans' and AFL world's pick. He would be a new age leader at just 21, but has such a good presence and represents himself so well, appearing in the media throughout his 3 seasons in the competition. There really isn't anything that he doesn't do well, and was already voted in by the players as co-vice captain in 2025. It would make him the youngest captain in the competition behind Noah Anderson. But that's the thing, is he too young? Maybe. But all Sheezel has done in his time at the club points towards high-level leadership. His co-vice captain was Nick Larkey. The 27-year-old has been the club's best forward for years now, and he would slot in nicely for a few seasons before you would think Sheezel would take the reins. It would be a sort of medium-term succession plan, and I don't think any North Melbourne fans would have an issue with Larkey as captain. But the outside option is ruckman Tristan Cherry. He was the club's best player last season and would be a leader by actions. The 26-year-old is physical, relentless and brutal at the contest, which is something his teammates could no doubt look up to if they don't already. Does he have the classic media presence and charisma some of the captains have? Maybe not, but that doesn't mean Big Cherry couldn't be exactly what the club needs. Even before the Simpkin saga, it felt like a new club captain was needed, and the options available all ticked the boxes. But all in all, it was still a very quiet trade period. The only inclusion was Premiership demon Charlie Spargo, who will add to the small forward stocks. He struggled for a couple years now, a lot of that due to injury, but at 25 he still hopefully has half a career to go with the Kangaroos. But he isn't the difference maker the club needs. North is in a tricky spot compared to the clubs around them. West Coast were able to get in Brandon Starcevic, Tyler Young and pick 2 for Oscar Allen to boost their rebuild, while we know Richmond has selections 3 and 4 due to trading with North Melbourne last off-season. While Essendon and Melbourne, two other sides in a reset, both have 2 top 10 picks. Even St Kilda, who have been building, were able to top up with 4 players and spend their cash. Out of all the rebuilding clubs and those around that mark, North Melbourne seem to be in a bit of no man's land. They obviously think they have enough young talent, in part why they were so aggressive last trade period and got in Jack Darling, Luke Parker and Caleb Daniel, but still look to have holes in their list that haven't been addressed or seemingly even attempted to. Most of that is to do with the defence. 2025 was not good reading. North had the worst defensive 1v1 loss percentage and the worst opposition chain to score percentage. Those stats point towards the actual defenders not winning enough of their duels and the system as a whole not working good enough, allowing opposition to move the ball out of the back half and get scores from that. So is the issue system or personnel? Well, 2025 showed it was both, and nothing has changed in the personnel category. The key backroom has some promise with Charlie Comben, but he is really an interceptor, and Toby Pink showed signs, but there is no general to lock down the key forwards and be that brick wall. The Smalls, well, they don't defend at North Melbourne, and a group made up of Caleb Daniel, Finn O'Sullivan, Cooper Harvey, and even Zane Dersma in the back end of the season at times is well off any top 8 team. It's a glaring issue at the club with both the talls and the smalls, and right now it's hard to find any answers. Alistair Clarkson desperately needs to find a defender or two in 2026, or those horror numbers mentioned before will likely continue on. Losing Finbar Maley also hurts the key forward stocks and mounts more pressure on Nick Larkey. He really has no chop out beside him, and Jack Darling will be another year older. Offensively, North were a touch below middle of the pack, so it's far from a glaring concern compared to their defence, but finding that second fiddle to Larkey has been a challenge. Maybe a smaller forward line with Spargo, Paul Curtis, Jacob Costanti and Cam Zohar could be the way to go and give taller defences some headaches. But it still seems like North Melbourne will be clearance or bust next year. It was the plan when this rebuild officially started to build from the midfield out, and that is the way the team is played. In 2025, North were 3rd best from scoring from clearance and 3rd overall for clearances won per game. Both are great numbers and exactly what the club would have wanted with the way they have drafted. But we do know that turnover scoring and defending the ground is where the game is won most of the time. Last season, North were the 2nd worst turnover scoring team. It's a big disparity, and when the team lost the clearance game badly, it often got ugly. Worst seen against Hawthorn and Geelong in a couple of games in the back end of the season. For now, the clearance game is really all the Kangaroos have. Even with more improvement and games into the younger crop, will it make a difference in the next year or two? Sure, Sheasel, Wardlaw, McKercher, O'Sullivan and Powell might become top level players, but will it equal any more wins? 2025 proved North Melbourne already had a strong enough on-ball unit to compete in any given game, but it was that defence and the transition side of things that cost them. Can the system be overhauled in an off-season? Can Comben become an elite tall back? And can a lockdown small defender be found or created to make up for all the kickers and runners that are in North Melbourne's defence? They are the crucial questions that the club has to deal with. List management took that gamble in to get in Whitlock and left them with no first round picks to trade with this year or be creative with. It was part of the plan, but I'm not sure the improvement of the other teams around North was as well. There will be change at Arden Street this pre-season, at least off-field, and fans will be hoping there can be some drastic shifts on it to improve a league worst defence with the same personnel.